you can really tap into nature in so many different ways. And when it comes to your kids, you don't have to necessarily force them to do something they don't enjoy. You could kind of spin it off from something they already love. So if they're into art, so have them go on a nature walk, and then even nature photography, have them paint a picture, draw a picture of something that they love. If they're athletes, get them outdoors more, playing their sports. There's just so many options that we can, weave in nature.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners, and welcome to episode 141, the Ecohappiness Challenge with the happy science mom, Sandi Schwartz. This episode is being released on Friday, May 22nd, which is the start of Memorial Day weekend and is the end of week 10 for us for ISO for the Rona. Memorial Day traditionally kicks off summer, but for many of us, our summer plans have been canceled or changed due to the coronavirus. So my one simple tip for this week is to think about just simple ways that you can get outside with your family this week, even if it's just for 15 or 20 minutes. A few ideas of things that I've heard people try is having a picnic in your backyard or on a deck, take a walk or bike ride around your neighborhood, do some chalk art or play basketball in the driveway, take some photos during that golden hour of sunset, or maybe play a game of nature bingo if you have younger kids. Getting outside, even just for a little bit of time, really improves our well-being, and all of us could use a little boost right about now. In this week's episode, I'm chatting with happy science mom, Sandi Schwartz, about how we can use nature to help us and our kids feel happier during COVID-19 and beyond. At the time of our recording, Sandi was on day 66 of her personal Ecohappiness Challenge, which is her goal of getting out into nature for just a little bit every single day. She's shooting for doing 100 days of something nature-related to improve her well-being. During this interview, we talk about some of the very doable, simple activities she's tried, as well as the benefits of getting outside. Sandi is the writer behind the blog Happy Science Mom. She has also published hundreds of articles in outlets such as Motherly, Scary Mommy, and more. And recently, her blog was listed in Feedspot's list of top 100 mom blogs every mommy must read in 2020. Sandi researches and writes about nature and its positive effects on us and is currently working on a book on the topic. Sandi lives in Florida with her husband and 2 children, a daughter in elementary school and a son in middle school. Welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, Sandi.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
So you are the happy science mom. Tell me a little bit about how you became the happy science mom.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, your worlds can collide and you don't even realize it. I started struggling, I've always been a stressed out kid, but my anxiety started especially when I had to deal with infertility issues, when I was pregnant, some difficult pregnancies, and then the whole post-birth situation was not my ball game. So it took me some time to get back to a balanced state. And during that time, I really just started doing my own personal research. And I fell in love with the book, The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin.
Yep, love that one. So good.
Yes, that really changed the trajectory of my life because I decided then to create a blog that encompassed all this research I was doing, but I kind of wrote it for my kids. it's the handbook that I wish my parents had and that they had given me.
Right.
And so, I look to mindfulness and gratitude and kindness. We do a lot of volunteer work in my family. And then I also reached back to my college major and my original career, which is environmental studies. And I pulled in how nature also helps us feel happier and calmer.
That's amazing. So isn't it great? Like we each have our own unique combination of experiences that kind of lead to the things we need to learn. I mean, I find that all the time, that the things that I'm telling others about is because I needed it most. It's not that I'm so great at it. It's more like, oh, I needed to learn this. So then I learned it for myself, and now I can maybe share something with others. So I love that story. Sandi, how old are your kids, and how many kids do you have?
I have a daughter who just turned 8 and a son who's about to turn 12.
Okay. So you also have young kids at home. So how's it been going for you? You're in Florida. We talked a little bit about before, and sounds very kind of similar to California, what's been happening with the pandemic and everything. So obviously your kids have been home this whole time?
Yes. And it's interesting. I was just watching a show recently that pointed out that it was like the fateful day of Friday the 13th, March 13th. I didn't even realize it was Friday the 13th. And that was the last day we had school in person. And it was Saturday, that I realized, this is real. What am I going to do? But they've been home doing their virtual school. Fortunately, it's been going well, and they've been keeping busy. And they continue to be happy. I think they were just born happy kids. So I had to work on my happiness, but they're just happy kids, thank goodness.
Well, I bet there's a correlation between your work that you've done and what you've taught your kids. So you've been modeling for them, it sounds like, from the beginning, because you were working on these things yourself, how to figure out, how to have a happier life. And I think, the message that I interview all these people, I read all these books and everything, and it really, unfortunately for some people, the message is that it's modeling that is the most powerful thing for our kids. Like if you want to raise a child who becomes a thriving adult, they need to see what that looks like. They need to see a parent who's showing them the way that, when things get hard, how do you deal with it? What are your strategies for coping during difficult times? And it's fine for them to see us struggle, but it sounds like you've, been able to show your kids how to overcome some of the struggles that you were having.
Yeah, I think I've learned to be honest about it. When I was a kid, you didn't tell anybody that you were feeling anxious or sad. And now my kids, I feel like they also learn about it in school, that mindfulness is part of the curriculum now, and community service. So they teach me a lot too.
Yeah, that's so great.
They remind me to do these things.
Yeah, it's so neat. Well, the reason that I wanted to have you on today is because you have kind of a cool activity or idea that I think can benefit all of us right now. You call it the Ecohappiness Challenge. So tell us a little bit more about how that works.
Sure. Well, first of all, I kind of created the word eco-happiness. I did a Google search, and there was one other organization that uses it, but I've kind of adapted it to my own blog and world of writing, because it's the idea that our mental health and nature are related, and we can find solace and calm by connecting to nature. And then to me, the ultimate goal is to realize the importance of that connection so that we protect nature. Because the bottom line is, I want to save the world, That's what I wanted to do from when I cleaned up my first river back in high school with the nature club. So I want to save the world and the planet. And this is my kind of contribution to realize, to teach people that how nature does serve us in such a positive way for our mental health. And so anyway, back to that fateful day of the Friday the 13th in March. So it was Saturday that I woke up and said to myself, how am I going to get through this? And I said, well, wait a second. I have a toolbox that I have been writing about for 5 years. How can I implement that now to make it easier for myself and my kids during this challenging time? So it was that day I committed to every day finding at least one activity that relates to nature to help me have a few moments of relaxation. And I've been doing it now consistently, even on the days I just thought I was going to miss it. Like I posted it right at the end of the day before I went to bed. I am now on day 66, and my goal is to get to 100 consistent days of eco-happiness.
So tell me, that's such a great idea. I love, it's so funny that you talked about Gretchen Rubin's book. I think those challenges, or what's it called, that when you string something together, you have a chain where you do a habit every day, it's very powerful. And you're now at that point where probably not only are you seeing the benefits, but you're like, wow, this is now part of my daily routine. What are some examples? Like share, like what's an example of one of your daily eco-happiness challenges?
Sure. It has been everything from going on a mindful walk, going on a bike ride with my kids or alone. My daughter has had a few really cool science projects through school where we needed to go in the backyard. And of course, I did it with her. We had to go to the backyard and create our own bug out of nature items, leaves and sticks. And we, I take a picture of it. And I post this every day on my social media accounts so people can follow along and hopefully join in. And then I've gone back, to a lot of the blog posts and research I've done, and I've been doing it, smelling, going outside and smelling the flowers, trying to think what else, enjoying a nature meditation through an app on a phone, just listening to whatever you like, the ocean waves, the wind, the tropical rainforest. There's so many amazing resources out there. We've done a bit of painting, birds and nature scenes. Just anything you can think of. The coolest part is that even the days that I'm kind of like tapped out and I'm like, am I going to come up with something unique today? Something appears. There was something around Earth Day where this gentleman was wrapping Dr. Seuss books. And he did the Lorax, which is, of course, one of my favorite all-time books. And I played it for my kids, and we're laughing, and we're just enjoying this new version of the Lorax. And so things come to me. They appear in my email or something I see online, or it just happens in my day. You don't even realize. You don't always have to work hard to seek out nature. It can find you as well.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if most people, it's funny because, gosh, before all this started, I had already chosen as my word. Do you ever do the one word, like a word for the year or anything like that? Have you done that practice?
Yes.
So I chose for this year, presence.
Yes.
And I am just like continually being reminded by just, things that are happening. And it's funny how once you decide to put something, like you want to do something in nature, the things are going to come to you. You're going to keep getting more ideas. That's just kind of how it's awesome how life works that way. But I've been just, we live kind of in the foothills. And so we've been doing just a lot more like we're having dinner outside. The weather's nice right now. It gets really hot here in the summer, but right now it's really pleasant. So we've been outside for these really long family dinners on the deck at our outside table, and the dogs are playing, and just like listening to the birds, watching the hawks fly by. I am more present. I've been forced to be present because of being at home and having everything canceled. And so while, it's devastating, the impact of the pandemic on, our business, our lives, everything, at the same time, you can see the silver linings, and it sounds like you've really found a silver lining in what you always knew, your knowledge that nature can heal and can help through challenging times. I just love that. Now, do you repeat them? Sometimes it's the same one, like another walk or another bike ride?
So that's a funny question, because there was one day that I got to, I don't know, around day 50, and I was putting a little too much pressure on myself to be unique. And so part of what I posted was, here's a lesson. It doesn't have to be something new. I went on another walk today.
Yeah.
And maybe on that walk, you notice something different. Like one time I really focused on the flowers. Another time I actually went on a bike ride and focused on everything I was hearing, like the crunching of the leaves that the wheel was going over and the wind blowing because it was a windy day. So you can kind of transform your experience.
Yeah.
different ways. It's really cool.
I would think for some people, actually doing the same thing might be even like, I mean, you're kind of an expert at this and you have a lot of, knowledge and everything else. But I mean, even if everybody just went outside for 5 minutes and just listened to the birds and just kind of did a nature like meditation, that alone could be huge, right? Just even the smallest thing.
Yes. Well, actually, a study came out last year that 20 minutes, about 20 minutes a day is that medicine, that nature medicine that can really help you. And it's better to spread it out. I mean, yeah, to do 20 minutes a day versus like one day, go on a hike on a Sunday. It's actually better to maybe take a break in the middle of the day, when the kids are, between school and homework or in between virtual classes, or, even get up from the computer and, during lunch, go for a walk. So it's incredible that it's a medicine for you that's just there. And we just need to open our eyes and appreciate it.
So true. And especially now that we're getting into the, summer, where in most places, you can go outside, and whether that's people's backyards or just a walk around the neighborhood, it really is healing. Isn't there also a lot of research about just the color green and seeing green? Do you know about that?
Green and blue. And actually, even with your interior, I was going to talk about even really connecting to nature when you're inside. I've written some articles about even when you're stuck inside, what you can do. And part of it is how you decorate your home. So, they recommend a child's bedroom, to be calmer at night before they go to sleep, to decorate it, paint it, green, soothing greens and blues. And have a fish tank in your home, that soothing sound of the water bubbling, different natural textures. That's a whole nother way we can connect to nature, just feeling it, like just going outside and having your kids touch the bark and touch the leaves and sticks. And you can do that inside too, with all the different natural fibers, the organic fibers and what we can decorate with. But yeah, in Florida, it's actually a little opposite. It's actually just starting to storm now. So you have to kind of shift gears and maybe spend a little bit more time inside during this heat, the storms. But there's so much that we can still do. And even virtual experiences help relax us. And some of the challenge, part of the challenge that I've done is doing some virtual tours. One day, the kids and I sat down and we went on a virtual tour of Ireland. And all the amazing nature that we saw. And it was really cool because it was one of those like wide screen that you can move, like you're walking through the areas, and they loved it. And so you can really tap into nature in so many different ways. And when it comes to your kids, you don't have to necessarily force them to do something they don't enjoy. You could kind of spin it off from something they already love. So if they're into art, so have them go on a nature walk, and then even nature photography, have them, paint a picture, draw a picture of something that they love. If they're athletes, get them outdoors more, playing their sports. There's just so many options that we can, weave in nature.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Do you know much about the whole thing about like grounding and being in bare feet, like on the dirt or on the grass?
It is so funny that you asked that, because that was one of the challenges I did. And I, of course, read all about it and researched it and never done it. Which is interesting about me that I always like to point out is I am your suburban environmentalist. I was raised totally in suburbia. I went to college and lived in DC for about 11 years. So there I was an urbanite. And then I've been living in the suburbs of Florida for like 12 years. So I am not what you think of as an outdoorsy, crunchy environmentalist. So I appreciate the well-roundedness of how we can reach out to nature, whether it's through your computer, your balcony, your backyard, or if you're going on a hike. So anyway, back to earthing. One of the days I took my daughter out and I said, we're going to do earthing. And she's like, what on earth is that? And we did it, and it was fun. And we did some tree pose out there on the grass, and it was relaxing. It was fun. And you can do it on the beach as well.
I love that. I mean, it's so funny because I think about my childhood was so barefoot Now my feet are so sensitive. Like I'm always like during the summer at camp, I'm always wearing my hiking boots, and it's like, there's too much. You can't just walk around barefoot in like the mountains with rocks and everything. But I just remember as a kid, my feet were like black from the combination of pavement and grass and everything. I remember like kids never cut their feet on glass anymore. I don't know. When I was a kid, I remember like stepping on glass and like having like glass things in my feet because I wasn't wearing shoes. So it's interesting to me that just how much we've lost touch with just kind of what it feels like to have your feet in the grass or in the dirt or in the sand, that kind of thing.
I remember my childhood, we spent the summers at the swim club, and I definitely was barefoot like the entire summer. And I remember being stung by a bee on my barefoot.
Yeah.
Outside in the front of my house. So I was clearly running around without my shoes on.
Yeah. And I remember stepping on bees. That was a thing too.
Yes.
Like a lot of times you'd get stung because you stepped on one in the grass.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting. Like, I mean, I don't really want our kids to get stung more, but I think there is some value in allowing them to get those dirty feet. At camp, one of the things we really embrace is kind of being dirty. Like we jump in the lake and we do take showers and stuff, but kids are a lot dirtier at camp and more like touching the dirt and in nature more just by virtue of the environment. And I know that it heals them. They all talk about how much more relaxed they feel. They're like, outside all the time and away from their computers. And it's a very relaxing feeling to be fully in nature.
Yes, my kids happen to go to an overnight camp as well, and they love it. It's their favorite part of the year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They have all these stories. It's funny because they both have the same story about losing a flip-flop in the lake. I remember one time my son, he sent a letter home and he's like, send more flip-flops. I lost mine in the mud.
Yeah, like got stuck in lake mud is different. Like beach, you imagine like when you're on a lake, this it's not sand. It is like mud, like underneath what's underneath you. It's not as nice of a feeling as what's on a beach. The water though is nice and clear, and you don't have the salt water, and you don't have like any fear of sharks. So I like that about lakes, but there is not the same feel of in your feet. It's kind of can be really goopy.
Definitely. That's funny.
But people go to like spas to get mud treatments. Kids get it for free at camp.
Yeah, that reminds me also how important water is. There's a fabulous book called Blue Mind, and it's all about just how water heals us. And I've written some articles on that too. Even drinking enough water helps soothe our mental health. Believe it or not, if you're dehydrated, you can feel anxious. And then what's cool is I noticed we have a pool in the backyard, of course, because we're in Florida, and even just listening to the fountain of the pool running, as I've sat out on my balcony, has been very relaxing to me. So you don't necessarily have to be, at the natural water body to experience it. A lot of it is even closing your eyes and imagining you are at the beach.
Oh,
water is so powerful.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Just before we talked, we had our like daily office Zoom meeting, and one of my coworkers says that she's been enjoying just sitting by her pool. She doesn't really love going in it. It's like a little cold still, and I just said, I think just being near water feels healing, like whatever water. And that's so funny that you just said that, because we were just talking about that this morning. I've always loved water. I was raised in a family that we loved like vacationing near water, being in the water. We were into boating. My dad was like a boater from an early age. And so I grew up like learning how to sail, and so water has been such a big part of my life. And I agree. I mean, I wonder too, just like why like babies, like giving them a bath is really soothing.
Well, part of the reason why water, the scientists think that it's just innate in us that we're attracted to water is because of the amniotic fluid that we lived in for all 9 months.
Yeah.
And the swishing of that sound.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of it's a comfort. It's just a natural comfort that we have. A lot of it's due to instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fascinating.
I know it is really interesting. I feel like the way when you're talking, I'm just reminded so much that sometimes we try to separate different parts of us, but really like we are part of nature and the world. And then our bodies are also really connected with how we feel, like like drinking enough water and getting sun and getting that vitamin D. So there's so much that it's all interconnected. So being outside is obviously something that we all need.
Yeah, and again, even if you're stuck inside, to tap into, the pictures that are, online are incredible. Like one of my favorites is to go and search those rainbows that are the full circle rainbows. And you can find just so many exquisite images out there. And one of my hobbies actually is I do some watercolor painting. Although I've been kind of bad about it lately because I've been writing more than painting, but so what I've done is when we travel, I'll typically take pictures of different flowers that I like to see or really cool trees. And I just keep all of that. It's all up, stored in my computer. And then when it's time to sit down and paint, I'll, be inspired by one of those photographs. So it's really cool because it makes you more mindful while you're walking down the street or in that museum or wherever I was on my trip. It helps me be more mindful, which keeps me away from being worrying, right? Because I'm focusing on the beautiful flowers and trees. Then you take the picture, and now on a day like this, it's kind of crummy outside, I can open that back up, whether it's my painting or a photograph, and I can have those positive memories. So nature also gives us that positive ability to go back and be in awe, even from our past experiences.
Yeah, it's so true. And now with with all the technology, you can actually pull up on your TV or your big screen, like a nature scene. You can have like a lake undulating or, the Calm app. So it's pretty amazing that even the image of nature can heal and soothe, if you can't access actual nature. That's so cool. I love that idea. It's funny because, again, like going back to this presence thing, because of being at home and everything that I had, I had a lot of speaking and all these things that it was supposed to be traveling and all these things that got canceled. So I was doing a lot more walks, especially as all the wildflowers were blooming in here. And I'm more of a photographer. I've loved photography since I was a child, like since starting around eighth grade. And I took photo classes in both high school and college. And just as a hobby, I've always loved photography. And I ended up taking so many photos of nature and it was like, wow, I haven't had time to do that, or haven't taken the time, I should say, to do that in so many years. And, this year with more time and being more present when I was walking. And now I have, now everything's dry almost here. Like it's almost like deserty here because it gets so hot in the summer. But so the wildflowers are no longer, and it's getting brown. But I have these pictures from a month ago that are just like the vivid colors of spring. And so I have been going back to them a lot, and just thinking, they're just like, it's very reassuring and everything. So I love this. This has been super inspiring, Sandy. I'm in fact more inspired than I have been. I've been getting outside and I've been more into like exercising outside and trying to do things like that. But I'm inspired to try some more of your activities that you offer.
Well, super. I actually, after about a month doing it, I decided to put it into a challenge calendar that you can start at any point. It's just a 30-day calendar. So feel free to go and download that and then go through it and see how many you can do. You could probably, get the whole family involved and make it a real challenge and see who can do the most or who can come up with some new ideas. But you can find it at happysciencemom.com/Ecohappiness Challenge.
Awesome. Well, I will for sure put a link in the show notes to whatever you provide to me to share. Like if you're are you on Instagram? Is that where you share your daily photos?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, I'm
everywhere.
Social media happy.
Okay. So great. Okay. Well, so fun. Sandy, I feel like inspired after talking to you. Thanks so much for being on today.
Sure. And I'm just imagining these beautiful wildflower photos you have and what you and your kids can do with them. Maybe make a nature journal or a collage. Can do a lot of cool stuff with them.
I'll send you some of my photos if you want to use them in your,
Perfect.
maybe you can watercolor them. My kids, I have a couple of kids who are painters. People won't be able to see this, but I'll put a picture in the thing. But
Oh, wow.
this is my daughter made this for me for Mother's Day. She was actually in Colorado, but she's home now, and she brought this home. And this is a picture from where we live here, like the oak trees and the little fence and everything. So I have some painters in my own family that love to paint outdoor scenes. And I've also been, I have an orchid that I got for my birthday that I've been keeping alive, which is a new thing for me. And it's sitting here on my desk, and I look at it, and I've heard that plants are very healing. And I'm finding that just having that is really helpful to me.
Yes, plants, gardening. Actually, I just posted a gardening blog today. So all about how gardening can help calm your children. So
I know, just being in the dirt. Yeah, that's so good. Well, Sandi, thanks so much for being on. It's been just great getting to know you and getting some inspiration from you. I think a lot of people will be helped by your message during this challenging time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the podcast. I hope you're as inspired as I am to join Sandi's Ecohappiness Challenge. Spurred by my conversation with Sandi, my favorite this week is the website, the Children and Nature Network. Founded by Richard Louv, the best-selling author of Last Child in the Woods and Nature Deficit Disorder, the Children and Nature Network offers many free resources and tools for families and organizations to help us get kids and ourselves out in nature more. As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Please take a moment to give Sunshine Parenting a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's end with a quote from my book, Happy Campers. Regardless of your child's age, remember that their best practice ground for positive relationships starts with you at home. Siblings, cousins, and close family friends are our kids' first friends, and by coaching our kids through the ups and downs of those relationships, we are helping them gain important social skills that will benefit them throughout their lives. Seeing ourselves as our kids' friendship coaches reminds us that our most important job as parents is modeling and teaching our kids about how to form positive relationships. It is from parents that our children first learn how to connect with others. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again next week for more conversations about raising kids who become thriving adults.